All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Heather, and today we're going to be doing a Vinyasa Flow practice. I thought for today we'd experiment with the idea of like easing into our poses or like exploring some flow before we hold our poses. So that's kind of going to be our exploration for today. I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to be using a couple props like a blanket that I'm sitting on, some bricks to go usually under my hands, and a strap. So if you happen to have those items or items like that around you, you're welcome to give them a try. We'll be cueing their use, so letting you know when and where they can be helpful. We're going to get started in comfortable sitting, Sukhasana. So here we usually cross one ankle over the opposite knee. That means each knee is being supported. I'm sitting up on a blanket, and what that does is bring the ground up to you so that it doesn't require a lot of effort to hold your pelvis neutral and your spine neutral. So you might find that useful. I think it's worth mentioning not everyone's hips loves this position. So if you find that your hips are really tight here, especially if your knees are above the sort of side of your hip bones, you're welcome to try sitting in seated angle or even coming into diamond if that's a more comfortable position for your body. We're going to get started just taking a little time to drop into awareness. So you might want to soften your gaze or even close your eyes. And just take a moment to check in with your body. Check in with your breath. Check in with your energy today. Tuning into your physical body. And just noticing what's happening now in your physical body. Noticing what sensations are present. Maybe noticing the temperatures. Without having to judge or analyze or fix. Just noticing what's happening in your body. And then tuning your awareness to your breath. And taking some time to notice what's happening now in your breath, in the breathing body. You don't have to control the breath or breathe in any specific way. Just seeing how the breath comes and goes from the body, the places that the breath moves into and moves out of. Now, with an awareness of body and breath, maybe taking a moment to sit with your intention for today's practice. Thinking about what you want to give to your practice, what you want to receive, areas you want to provide with some care, or places that you really want to explore or challenge. And we're going to begin our practice with a little bit of a breath exploration called the 3-part breath. So I just want to mention, if at any point in this technique you're feeling discomfort of any kind, you're welcome to move back to natural breathing, to take a posture, do whatever makes you feel comfortable. If you want to give this a try, we're going to start by taking the hands onto the body. So one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly. Now you're welcome to do this lying down. It can be really comfortable technique lying down, especially if you find sitting to be a little uncomfortable today. And all we're going to do with the 3-part breath is start noticing 3 places of the breath. So we're going to inhale first and breathe into the chest, and notice how the breath moves under the hand that's on the chest. So breathing into the chest, maybe on the inhale, we can feel the chest lift. On the exhale, we can feel the chest fall. Just noticing that breath coming and going from the chest. And we'll add a second part to the breath with a hand just around the solar plexus, the place where the front ribs meet. Breathing into that place, I'm going to talk about that being the place of the diaphragm. So you could breathe first into your chest, and then take the breath a little lower to fill the diaphragm. And if you have trouble feeling that, find it helpful to take both hands around the ribs, so that when you inhale, the ribs fill and lift. And when you exhale, the ribs compress and drop. So we've got 2 parts of the breath now. We're going to inhale to fill the chest. We're going to keep inhaling to explore the diaphragm, the ribs. And now we're going to add a third place, and you can choose whichever hand you want to place onto your belly. And here we're going to imagine we're sending the breath right down into the belly. So we inhale through the chest, through the ribs and the diaphragm, down into the belly, feeling the belly filling. And then exhale from the chest, from the ribs, and from the belly. And so keep going with that practice a few more times at your own pace, inhaling chest and ribs and belly, and exhaling chest and ribs and belly. Just noticing all the sensations, all the places the breath is reaching into. You can think of breathing not just into the front of the body, but the back of the body, the sides of the body. And we'll take one more 3-part breath. And then you can rest your hands on your knees. So I hope that gave you an experience of breathing kind of through the whole body. If you feel like it built up a little bit of tension in your body, you can use a few falling out breaths. Inhaling through the nostrils and sighing out the breath. And then we're going to get ready to add some movement to our practice. So you're welcome to flow into your Ujjayi breath if that's a technique that you use, or just keep breathing naturally in and out through the nostrils, and maybe keep playing with the feeling of that 3-part breath. We're going to start in hands and knees position. So hands under the shoulders, knees under the hips. If you find that you've got a lot of tension in your wrists here, if you're familiar with it, I'd invite you to practice this seated if that's more comfortable. A couple things I find helpful if your wrists are feeling sore or vulnerable here is to roll up the mat under the heels of the hands, or taking your yoga strap and placing that under the heels of your hands, just to add a little bit of lift and support. And here we're going to start with some spinal warm-up. So as I said at the beginning of practice, I'm going to experiment a little bit with easing in and then holding our poses. This is going to be a little different than we usually do. We're going to start our cat-cow with an inhale. And on an exhale, we're going to hollow the belly to tuck the tail, tuck the head under. On an inhale, we're going to tilt the tail up, press the chest through, lift the gaze. And again, exhale, curling your tail under, rounding through your back, curl your head under. Inhale, tilt your tailbone to the sky, press the heart forward, lift the gaze. And again, exhale, rounding the back. And inhale, arching the back. And now we're going to take a little bit of time in each place. So we're going to exhale and round the back. Coming into cat pose or hissing cat. And let's take some breaths here. So just breathing and maybe experiencing the filling of the back of your body. Filling the upper back ribs, maybe even the middle back ribs. Pressing through your fingertips. So taking a couple of breaths to hold and explore the pose. And then when you're ready, you can move to cow, tilting the tail up, pressing the heart through, lifting the gaze. And exploring a few breaths here. One of the things I think is interesting to notice here is how much your lower back really likes moving into this position, spinal extension, but we might have to encourage the upper back a little bit by pressing the chest forward, lifting the gaze, and maybe really experiencing the breath through the front of the chest, the front of the shoulders. And then we're going to return to a neutral spine. Nice. Let's take the same rhythm to our tail wagging dog. So here we're going to use our lower legs as our tails, wagging the right tail out to the side, peeking around the shoulder to squeeze the right side waist. And then inhale, returning to neutral. On an exhale, wag your left leg out, peek around your left shoulder. And inhale back to center. Again, exhale, wag to the right, squeezing the right side waist. Inhale, center, keeping all 10 fingernails active, fingertips active. Exhale, wag to the left, give a squeeze to the waist. Inhale back to center. One more time each side. Exhale, we're going to wag. And inhale back to center. And last time this side, exhale, wag and peek around the shoulder. Watch we're not sagging the back here. And then return to center. Now we're going to come into the pose. Take a little time to hold and explore. So we're going to wag your right tail to the side. Your toe could be curled under if you like. You're going to peek around the shoulder. And experience that curve in the side waist, the opening up through the outside of the body. Exploring the breath for both on the compressed side and the stretching side. And then coming back to the center. We'll do the same on the other side. So we're going to wag your tail, peek around your shoulder. You might notice your back starts to sag here. So just a little lift from the front ribs to keep the spine neutral. And you can play with letting your back shoulder follow you into the movement, adding a little bit to the side bend, or drawing that shoulder back to experience more stretch through your neck. And then from here, we're going to come back to the center. Nice. Let's get ready for threading the needle. So we're going to stand into your left hand, and on an inhale, we're going to open the chest to the right side, hand to heart, head, or reach it up. As you exhale, thread just behind your wrist, reaching down toward your shoulder. Stand again in the left hand, inhale, flowing up. And exhale, threading through. Inhale, rotating the spine. Exhale, threading through. And now we're gonna get ready for a little bit of a hold. We're gonna inhale to reach up. And as we exhale, we're gonna thread through and go ahead and rest either on your elbow if that's comfortable, or you can reach down to your shoulder. If you'd like something in between, you can rest your shoulder and your head on a blanket. And here we're gonna take a couple breaths. If you wanna add on, you can take your bottom hand, your left hand, and bring it round to rest on your lower back. Just taking a couple of breaths. So you'll use the hand on your lower back that you're twisting towards. You got it, that's it. And from here, we're gonna unwind and come back to hands and knees. So take your time. And let's come to the other side. So we're gonna take your left hand and draw it underneath. And again, you can rest on your forearm if that's comfortable. And you can take your opposite hand, so it's gonna be your right hand, and place that on your lower back. If you'd like to go lower, you can reach across and rest right down on your shoulder, or somewhere in between is resting your head and shoulder onto a blanket. And taking some breaths here. And then we're gonna get ready to start unwinding. If you didn't get as much time on this side as you wanted, you can stay there for a couple of breaths. And when you're ready, we're gonna start to make a movement into downward facing dog. We're gonna curl the toes under. And just lift your knees a few times off the ground. Then press the hips a few times back towards the back of the mat. And sending the hips back, press your knees towards straight a few times. So we're really taking our time with each joint warming into the pose. So toes and ankles, then the hips, then the knees. Once you're up here, you could walk your dog. Doing the things you do to warm up your down dog. You might wag your tail. And then we're gonna find some steadiness in the pose for a few breaths. If you're finding your wrists are a bit tired, you're welcome to bring your elbows down or your knees down to the ground. Taking just 2 or 3 more breaths in down dog, sending your hips back to the back of the mat. Maybe warming up your neck by tucking and releasing your chin a few times. And then let's get ready to step to the top of the mat. So bend your knees, get a bit springy. And now your choice, walk, jog, or hop the feet forward. Feet can be together, they can be apart. Hands on shins, bricks, or the ground. We're gonna take a couple of breaths here. Inhaling to halfway lift. Straight arms, long spine. And exhale, just easing into a forward fold, letting your spine relax over your thighs. Again, press into the arms. Inhale, halfway lift. Could be doing this on the shins as well. And exhale, easing into your forward fold. Again, inhale. Halfway lift, long arms, long spine. And exhale, easing into your forward fold. Let's take a few breaths here in your forward fold. So again, hands, shins, bricks or the ground, easing out through your neck. Your knees could be bent. They could be straight. You could think about allowing gravity to take hold of your spine a little bit here. And then we'll get ready for a powerful pose. So we're going to start with a bend in the knees and then press the hips back up to straighten the legs. Bend the knees and press it up. Bend the knees, maybe sinking a little lower as they warm up. Press it up. And now we're going to take a deep bend in the knees, powerful pose. On an inhale, float the arms up just as high as you comfortably can. And on an exhale, we're going to press all the way up to standing. Nice. We're going to flow directly on to our first version of sun salutations, the half standing vinyasa. Exhaling the arms down by the sides, bend the knees. Inhale, powerful pose. And exhale to forward fold. Hands to bricks, shins, or the ground. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale to forward fold. Then bend the knees. Inhale, powerful pose. And exhale, press up to standing. Let's try that again, bend the knees. Inhale, powerful pose. And exhale to forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale to forward fold. Bend the knees, inhale. Utkatasana, powerful pose. And exhale, press up to standing. Let's do one more, bend the knees. Inhale, sitting the hips back, reaching the arms up. Exhale, forward fold, lift the hips, release the head. Inhale, long arms, long spine. Exhale, easing again into that forward fold, and then bend the knees. Inhale, powerful pose. And exhale, press up to standing. Nice. Adding on, hands-free vinyasa, bend the knees. Inhale to your powerful pose. And exhale, take your forward fold, hands to shins, bricks, or the ground. Here we're going to inhale to halfway lift. And on an exhale, we're going to step your left foot back. Nice big step. Keeping your hips square to the front. You can keep that heel lifted or anchor it to the ground, pivot to the middle. Then inhale, reach your arms up. This is warrior one. On an exhale, hands down, lift your back heel. Inhale, step up to halfway lift. Same on the other side. Take a few breaths to set up. Step your right foot back. You can keep that heel lifted or pivot the heel towards the midline, anchor it down. Big lunge in your front knee. Inhale your arms up. And on an exhale, hands down. Lift the back heel. Inhale, step up to halfway lift. And on an exhale, forward fold. Bend the knees. Inhale, powerful pose. And exhale, press up to standing. Let's do that again, bend the knees. Inhale, sitting the hips back. And exhale, take your forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift to prepare. Exhale, take your left leg back and choose your position. Heel up or heel down, they're both great. Inhale your warrior one. Exhale, hands down, lift your heel. Inhale, step up to halfway lift. And exhale, take your right leg back. Grounding your feet. Inhale, warrior one, sending your hips forward here. Exhale, hands down, lift the heel. Inhale, step up to halfway lift. And exhale to forward fold. Now bend the knees, inhale, powerful pose. And exhale, press up to standing. Nice. Take a couple of breaths here. Now you can keep going with this flow. It's a great dynamic warm-up, particularly good if you're not wanting to bear a lot of weight today on hands, wrists, shoulders. Keep going with your hands-free flow. If you'd like to add on for sun salutations A, you can follow my cues. Exhaling your arms down. And bend the knees. Inhale to powerful pose. And exhale to forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift to prepare, long arms. On an exhale, plant your hands. Walk, jog, or hop your feet back to plank. Inhale, straight and strong. Exhale to chaturanga, maybe knees, chest and chin to the ground. Inhale to Sphinx. And here we're going to take a couple breaths. So either using Sphinx or if you prefer a baby cobra. Here we're just going to take a moment to think about strengthening the legs, anchoring the seat so your glutes are pressing back and shining the heart forward. Then on an exhale, we're going to push back to down dog. So you might like to move through hands and knees, then curl your toes under and press back to downward facing dog. So you stay there. I'm going to come out for a few breaths. Nice. So we want to think about sending the hips back to the back of the mat and up towards the ceiling. If you find there's a lot of weight in your hands, try taking a bend in your knees, letting your heels come away from the ground. And from there, you can really work on sending those hips back. Taking one more breath. And then on an exhale, bend your knees, get springy, look to the top of your mat and walk, jog, or hop the feet forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Bend the knees, inhale, powerful pose. And exhale, press up to standing. And let's try that again, bend the knees, inhale, powerful pose. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift to prepare. Exhale, plant the hands and walk back to plank. Straight and strong, inhale. Exhale, chaturanga, maybe knees down, lower halfway down, and all the way down. Inhale, cobra. Press into the hands to lift the heart. Keep the belly button on the ground. And then exhale, pull back to down dog. You might want to move through hands and knees into your downward facing dog. And again, if you're having any tension or tiredness in wrists, elbows, shoulders, you might choose puppy pose. So we're keeping the hips relatively high, reaching out through the fingertips. Let's take 3 more breaths. Let's watch that our neck isn't trying to hold us up in down dog. You can release your head. Keep the elbows lifting from the ground as you soften the chin. Taking 1 more breath. And then on your exhale, bend the knees, get springy, and walk, jog, or hop the feet forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Nice. Exhale, forward fold. Bend the knees, inhale, powerful pose. And exhale, press up to standing. Nice. Taking a few breaths here in Samasthiti. So Tadasana is the pose, mountain. Samasthiti is the instruction, equal standing. You can have your feet together. You can have your feet apart. You want to find a position where you feel like you can balance your pelvis over your ankles, your shoulders over your pelvis, your head over your shoulders. Arms down by the sides, keeping the arms active, thumbs turned slightly open. And just taking a moment to feel the equal standing here, balancing between left and right, finding the center. Balancing between heels and toes. And finding the center. Balancing between the outer edges of the body, starting with the feet, and the inner edges of the body, and finding the center. I'm going to take this sense of equal standing into a forward fold. So now we're going to step the feet hip bone width apart if you're not there already. Front hip bone in line with the center of the knee, in line with the second toe. You might like to have bricks handy for this pose. We're going to start with hands to hips. Inhale, ground through the feet. And exhale, start to hinge at your hips and fold. And let's just pause there and lift back up. And then on an exhale, we'll maybe take that a little bit further, hinging at the hips, bringing hands to shins, bricks, or the ground. And then we're going to inhale and press back up to the top. So we're just easing into this fold. Again, hinging at the hips, really feeling the hips folding. So your front hip bones are folding towards your thigh bone. Hands to shins, bricks, or if it's available, catching the big toes. Here we're going to inhale to halfway lift. And on an exhale, bend through the elbows and draw the body into the fold. So you might be holding your toes in a bind here. You might have hands on bricks and working towards a bend in the elbows. Taking a few breaths. If you're finding there's a lot of tension in this pose for you, you might keep that essence of flow going by inhaling to lift the head a few centimeters and exhaling to release. Inhale, a little lengthening of the spine, and exhale to release. One more inhale. And exhale to release. And getting ready to come out of the pose, we're going to inhale to halfway lift. That means long arms, long spine. Exhale, bring your hands to your hips. Really strong in your legs as you inhale, push the ground away and rise up to the top. Nice. And returning to your Tadasana mountain pose, returning to that Samasthiti. Taking a breath or two here. And then we're going to get ready to step out to the side for side angle pose. So you might want to have your bricks handy for this one. We're going to take a big step out to whatever side you can see your screen. And take your feet, please double hip width apart. A good measurement is you want your ankles kind of under your wrists. I'm going to turn your right foot out 90 degrees. Turn your left toes in 30 degrees. We want to think about bringing that Samasthiti, head over shoulders, shoulders over hips into this pose. We'll start with a little bit of a warm up into Warrior 2, Virabhadrasana 2. Taking your arms out to the side. Take a little lunge into Warrior 2. Now, if your knee is crossing over beyond your ankle, you might take a longer stance here. Then press back up to the center. Try turning your palms up. Taking a lunge into Warrior 2. Try not to lean into the side. Keep your spine nice and tall. Press back up to the top. And then take a bend in the elbows. Turn the palms to face inward. Take a lunge into Warrior 2. Nice. And now keep all this strength in the legs, the balance in the pelvis. We're going to take a little fold to the right side. Place your forearm lightly on the thigh. If you'd like to add on, you can take your hand to the brick or the ground. We're just going to warm up this top arm by sweeping the arm overhead and then taking it comfortably behind the body, back down to your side. And again, sweep your arm overhead, take it comfortably behind the body, back down to your side. Again, sweep it overhead and back down to your side. And last time, we're gonna sweep it overhead and we're gonna hold it here. From here, you might like to turn your gaze up to the ceiling and take a few breaths here. And then on an exhale, gaze down. On an inhale, we're gonna press into the ground and rise to the top and get ready to pivot to the other side. So if you've got a brick handy, you can bring that with you as we pivot the left foot out 90 degrees, the right toes in a good 30 degrees. Arms out to the side, palms facing down. We're gonna take a lunge, thinking about hip in line with knee, in line with second toe. Press back up to the top. Turn your palms to face up. Take a lunge. Keep lots of strength in that back leg. Press it back up to the top. Now a bend in the elbows, turn the palms to face inward and take a lunge. Nice. And from here, we're gonna fold at that left hip to bring the forearm lightly to the thigh or fingers firmly to the brick or the ground. Taking the arm down by your side, we're gonna warm the shoulder up by sweeping the arm overhead and taking it comfortably behind the body, back to your hip. Again, sweeping overhead. Take it comfortably behind the body, back to your side. Again, sweep. All the way around to your side. And this last time, we're gonna sweep the arm overhead. We're gonna stay here, maybe turning the gaze up to the ceiling. Looking for that sense here that we're lunging in, but we're also unlunging, pushing back. Taking 2 more breaths, side angle pose. 1 more breath, we're gonna exhale down. Inhale, spiral to the top. And you might bring your bricks with you to the center as we turn the toes slightly inward for a wide-legged forward fold. So both toes turn slightly inward, just enough so that the outer edge of your foot is parallel with the short edge of the mat. We'll take the hands to the hips. Inhale, ground through the 4 corners of the feet. And exhale, take an easy fold. Hands to bricks or hands to the ground. And let's just inhale to halfway lift. Again, that means long arms, long spine. And then exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale, forward fold. One more time, inhale, halfway lift. And exhale, forward fold. And here you might walk your hands towards the ground if that's available, or even walk the hands back towards the feet, releasing the crown of your head toward the ground. Let's take a few breaths here. So holding on to the pose, thinking about that feeling of balancing between heels and toes, left and right, inner foot and outer foot. And then we're going to walk the hands forward again. Inhale, halfway lift. Again, you might be on bricks here. We're going to add a little bit of a twist. So we're going to move your left hand into the center, just underneath your breastbone. And you can have your hand on your breastbone or behind your ear, or you can use your whole arm as we take a breath and rotate to the right side. Then inhale back down to the center. So again, your hand could stay on the chest if that's more comfortable. Inhale to rotate. You can go ahead and let your hips travel with you. And exhale back to center. Or hand behind the ear you might like as you inhale to take a twist. And exhale back to center. And now we're going to take the twist and hold. So we're going to take a rotation and hold it here. You could be extending your arm. If you'd like to explore a little bit more rotation in your spine, a little bit less movement in your hips, You can take your hand back to your sacrum, the big heavy bone at the base of the spine, and let that guide you in bringing the hips toward the center. That's a nice way to explore here. And then we're going to unwind and switch sides. So right hand to the brick. You can have your hand on your chest. I like this for telling me where I really rotate to. Hand behind your ear or extending your arm. We're going to inhale to take a twist. Go ahead and let your hips travel with you. Exhale back to the center. Again, hand on your chest is nice. Inhale to twist. And back to center. Or hand behind the ear is nice to take a twist. And back to the center. Now we're going to take our twist and hold. And you could use any of these hand positions, whatever works for your body today. If you're wanting to look for more spinal rotation, less movement in the hips, you can take your hand onto the lower back or sacrum, and that's going to give you some guidance in squaring the hips. So that's a way of advancing the pose. Let's take one more breath here, and then unwind. Hands back down to bricks or the ground. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Another inhale, halfway lift. And on an exhale, you might take a bend in the knees as you take your hands to your hips. Take a little pause here. And then on your next inhale, press up to standing. And then you can make your way back to the top of the mat. So it's a long time in the wide-legged stance. So you might want to give your ankles a little swirl. Walk out your knees and hips a few times. And then we're going to get ready for a balancing pose. So again, keeping with our theme today, kind of easing into our postures, we're going to play a little bit with our balancing pose, Utthita Hasta Padangusthasana, extended hand to big toe pose. As always, if the balancing fairies haven't arrived for you today, go ahead and work next to the wall. Or be in a position, if you're in a lounge room that's got really gushy carpet, try to find a really stable place to work. I'm going to start with a little bit of repetition. We're going to stand on your right leg. Fix your drishti, fix your focal point forward. And then on an inhale, we're going to float the knee toward the chest. Maybe lightly touch the hands to the knee and then place it back down. We're going to do that again. Really notice how far your standing leg hip travels when you lift. We want it to travel as little as possible. Float the knee up without sagging the hip and then place it down. So keeping those hips level, let's do it again. Float the knee up and then place it down. And now we're going to lift the knee and hold for a few breaths. So we're going to float the knee up. If your balance is really challenged today, you could keep a toe on the ground. Do you want to add on light fingertips to the knee? Do you want to add on further? Reach down to catch the big toe and take that leg forward. 2 more breaths. 1 more breath. We're going to place the foot down. As you do, notice how far that standing leg hip has traveled. That's interesting information. Now we're going to switch sides on this. So we're going to stand onto your left foot, keeping your drishti focused forward, your focal point or your gaze. We want to really work on the standing up tall, not sacrificing the standing leg hip as we inhale and float the knee up toward the chest. And then slowly place it down. Nice. So really paying attention to the shifts of the body. Floating the knee up. Keep the breath. Exhale, placing it down. Again, inhale. And exhale. And now we're going to lift and hold. So we're going to float the knee up. You might be balancing on your tiptoes. You might bring light fingertips to the knee. You might be reaching down with 2 fingers to catch the big toe. You could stay there, or you could start to take that leg forward. Which hand do you hold the toe with? The same side as the leg you're lifting. Taking one more breath. And then slowly release. Nice. Maybe give it a little shimmy. And now we're going to be taking a vinyasa to the ground. So if you're not wanting to bear a lot of weight on hands, wrists, shoulders today, I'd invite you to come to sitting in any way that's comfortable for you. You might take a lunge to the ground, etc. If you're wanting to take a vinyasa, you can follow along with me, coming to the top of the mat in Tadasana mountain pose. Exhale the arms down by the sides, bend the knees. Inhale to your powerful pose. And exhale to forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift to prepare. On an exhale, plant the hands and walk the feet back to plank. Inhale, hold it here. Exhale to your version of chaturanga. Inhale to cobra. Exhale, pull back to down dog. And then from here, you can make your way to sitting. One good way to go is sink the knees to the ground. Swing both heels to the same side. And then take a seat behind your heels to extend the legs forward in Dandasana. This is a good time to grab a sip of water and to make sure that you've got all your props handy, like a blanket to sit on, some bricks for support, and maybe a strap to do a bit of arm extending. We're going to find our place in Dandasana staff pose. So what we want to do is find the sit bones on the ground. You might rock from side to side, even move some of the fleshy part of the bottom out of the way to feel those sit bones. For most of us, we're going to find that sitting up on a blanket allows us to keep the pelvis nice and neutral. So it's not falling backwards. We're not struggling to sit tall. Then we're going to flex the feet flat like they're up against a wall. Hands down to the prop you're sitting on or down to the ground. What you want to feel here is that your shoulders are descending as you reach down. So if you've got shorter arms like me, that's kind of easy to achieve. If you've got longer arms, bend your elbows back behind you so you can keep working on sending the shoulders down, making lots of space in the neck here. Then we're going to start to make our way into Paschimottanasana, our seated forward fold. We're going to take some time getting there. I'm going to start with the hands just in the lap here on the top of the thighs. Inhale to lengthen the spine. And on an exhale, just take a little stroll down, maybe towards your knees, hinging at your hips, keeping your chest nice and open. On your next exhale, maybe taking a stroll a little further along. And taking a breath here, noticing if your chest is caving in, if your shoulders are rounding forward. In that case, you want to think of keeping the chest open, hinging at the hips, maybe adding a prop under your seat. Then when you're ready, we'll walk the hands just a little bit further. Maybe you can reach towards your shins here. Maybe this causes you to really round your back, in which case it's time to take a strap around the feet. And hold on to your strap so we can focus on hinging at the hips first before we round the spine. If you still have a little bit more room in your flexibility, you can reach forward and catch your big toes. And let's all take one more inhale to halfway lift. And then exhale to forward fold. And we're going to hold here for a few long breaths. And we'll release and start to walk the hands back up. Nice. And from here, let's leave your left leg straight, and we're going to fold the right heel in and drop the knee out to the side. Janu Shirshasana, we're going to play with this sequence a little differently today. Let me remind you, if you have any pain in your knee in this position, try taking a brick or a cushion or a blanket and placing that underneath your thigh. We don't want to have any pain in the knee in this position. Now we're going to do the same thing that we did in our forward fold. We're going to take a stroll down the leg. So we're going to take the straight leg and pull it back towards the body. So we're square to the straight leg. Inhale, hands to the thigh, nice tall spine. Exhale, take a stroll down your leg. Maybe another inhale. And exhale, taking a stroll down the leg. Another inhale. And exhale. And if you find your back's rounding quite a lot, it's time to take your strap. So we can focus a little more on folding at the hip, a little less on rounding the spine. If it's available, you can catch your foot. Then we're going to inhale to halfway lift and exhale to tall sitting. Getting ready for rotated foot to thigh pose. This is a pose where we often use the ease into it strategy with palms at the heart, or if you like, hands behind your ears. We're going to keep the foot and the thigh pressing firmly together, and on an exhale, we're going to twist to look over your bent knee, and then inhale back to the center. Exhale to twist, and inhale center. And one more time, we're going to exhale, twist, and hold it here. If you want to add support, reach across to lightly catch your knee, and right hand behind the back. Taking a few breaths here, keeping chin level to the ground, keeping shoulders level to the ground, aiming to keep equal weight on both sit bones. And from here, we're going to come into the rotated head to knee pose. We're going to inhale, float the back arm up. On an exhale, we're going to fold, shoulder towards the knee. Inhale, returning to the top of the pose. This hand isn't comfortable here. You can place it down on the straight leg. Exhale, take another fold. And inhale to the top. And again, we're going to exhale, fold. And here we're going to hold. So your hand can be holding the knee. You can place it down on your straight leg. You can catch your big toe if you like. This top arm, if it's not comfortable overhead, you can take that hand and tuck it behind your lower back. Let's take one more breath here in rotated head to knee pose. On an exhale, we're going to gaze down. On an inhale, make your way back up to the top. And unwind. We're going to return to Dandasana staff pose to come to the other side of that sequence. So folding your left heel in nice and close, dropping your knee out to the side. Again, if you feel any pain or tension in this knee, go ahead and prop it up. We're going to square to the straight leg. We want the straight leg to be really active. Foot flexed, activity through the whole leg. We're going to take a stroll down the leg. So hands onto the thigh, inhale. And on an exhale, start to take a walk down. No rush. Inhale. And exhale, maybe walking down towards the shin. Inhale. And exhale. If you find your back is really rounding here, it maybe is time to grab a strap. If it's available, you can catch onto your foot. And let's exhale, ease into a fold. Take a few breaths. And then we're going to inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, take a walk back. Moving into rotated foot to thigh, we're going to press the foot and thigh together, hands to the heart or behind the ears. Why choose one over the other? I like this one. If you find that your back tends to round in a seated position, this tends to keep things really open. I like the hands here. If you're wondering, how far do I really twist just on my own steam without using my hands. So there's benefits to both. I'm going to inhale to prepare, and on an exhale, take a twist and look over your bent knee. And then inhale back to the center. And again, exhale to twist. Try to keep both sit bones evenly weighted here. Inhale back to center. And one more time, exhale, twist. And you can hold it here. If you want to add some support from your hands, you can catch your bent knee and then take your left hand behind your back. If you find you can't help yourself, but really pulling into the twist, turn your hand backwards so that the back of your hand comes to your knee. You can't get quite as much leverage there. So you'll be using more of your core, less of your arm strength. And then flowing on into a rotated head to knee. Inhale to float that back arm up. Exhale, fold shoulder towards knee. And then inhale, we'll rise back up to the top. A reminder, if you don't like holding onto the knee, that hand can come down to the straight leg. Exhale, take an easy fold. Inhale back to the top. And again, exhale, easy fold, and you can hold here. Holding the knee, hand to the leg, or catching the big toe. Really want to keep the chest turned to the side. One thing that can be helpful there is taking that top arm and tucking it into your lower back. It tends to help keep the chest nice and open here. So just taking a few breaths. And on an exhale, we're going to gaze down. On an inhale, we're going to rise up to the top. And unwind. So next, we're going to do a little sequence with a modified side arm balance. So this one tends to be a little bit better, especially if you're not wanting to bear a lot of weight on your wrists. So we're going to use that modification. We're going to blend it in with a pose called gate pose. So we're going to start in hands and knees position. So this version of side arm balance, I call it train tracks, because we're going to think about your right hand, your right knee, your right foot being along a train track, and you're going to step your left foot back onto the train track. So everything's in a nice long line. It's really important to remember here, you don't have to put a lot of weight into this hand. You can keep lots of your weight in your knee. If you're having a bit of trouble balancing, go ahead and wag that bottom foot back behind you. If this really isn't comfortable for the wrist, you can come onto a fist here. Okay, and we're going to stretch the top arm up overhead and take a breath here. And now this is going to be the challenge. We're going to come up to a gate pose. So we're going to use that top arm nice and strong in your core to reach and lift right off the ground, all the way up to tall kneeling. Bring your right hand to your thigh and your left arm overhead. So that was a good challenge. Let's unwind that. We're going to bring that left hand back down onto the ground and the right arm overhead. Let's try it again. So lots of core strength. Think about using this hand to pull you up. And then the right hand to the thigh, the left arm reaches overhead. Take a slide down the thigh. One more time, reaching up. And bring that hand back down to that side arm balance version. And let's do it one last time. Reaching up, lifting right up off the ground. Right hand to the thigh, left arm overhead. Take a slide down the thigh. And then we're going to unwind and return to hands and knees position. And repeat that on the other side. Wasn't that fun? So train tracks. Left hand, left knee, left foot, step the right foot back. If you need help balancing, wag the back foot. And then reach the right arm up. We want to think about inviting the hips into line with the back of the head, back of the hips, back heel. You're welcome to balance on a soft fist here if that's better for your wrist, but let's get ready to lift up into gate. So we're going to use your core, lots of strength to pull all the way up. And we're going to bring your left hand to the thigh, right arm overhead. Slowly unwind. So this is going to require lots of core strength here. If getting down to the ground feels really low, you could be coming down onto a brick. Let's try it again. Hips are strong, core is active, reaching all the way up. Left hand to the thigh, right arm up. Now we can start to slide down that leg. Inhale to the top, exhale to unwind. And let's try it one more time. So we're pulling up to the top, left hand to the thigh, right arm overhead, sliding down the thigh. Then we're going to reach up from here and unwind. And coming back to hands and knees position. Now here you've got some options. If you feel like taking a half vinyasa, I'd invite you to do that. It's going to help you keep some heat in the body. If you're not feeling the vinyasa right now, especially if you're not wanting to bear weight on your wrists, you can swing your heels to the side, start to make your transition onto your back. A reminder on what a half vinyasa looks like. Inhale, plank. Exhale to your version of chaturanga. Inhale to your sphinx, cobra or up dog. Exhale, pull back to down dog. And then from here, you can step or hop to sitting. Again, nice way to go is to sink your knees to the ground, swing the heels to the side, and then walk back to take a seat. And then from here, we're going to shift your hips to your heels, get towards the middle of the mat. Inhale to prepare to roll onto your back. Exhale, take a slow roll down, lots of control. And then walking your heels in towards your seat. Getting ready for a little version of bridge pose. We're going to walk the shoulder blades a little bit into the spine to press the wrists flat, palms flat. We're going to start with a really easy hip roll. So on an exhale, you might feel a little gap between your lower back and the ground. On the exhale, we're going to press the lower back into the ground, reduce that gap, start to curl your hips off the ground. Inhale, release and return to neutral. Again, exhale, we're going to hollow the belly, send the lower back to the ground, start to curl the hips off the ground. Inhale, release, return to neutral. And now we're just going to add on to that movement. Exhale, rolling the lower back into the ground, starting to lift the hips just a few more inches off the ground. And then slowly rolling out. And really focus on rolling sequentially, vertebra by vertebra. Again, exhale, rolling the hips up, maybe a little higher this time. And then slowly rolling it out. You keep working on that. I'm going to sit up to talk to you. So your exhale, press the lower back to the ground, activate your seat, rolling the hips up, moving towards creating a straight line, knees, hips, shoulders. Then slowly roll it down. Let's do this 2 more times. So exhale, roll the lower back down, start to curl the hips up. If you want more time to really bring awareness, take a few breaths on your journey up and a few breaths on your journey down. And then after your last hip roll, we're going to roll the hips all the way up into bridge and take a few breaths there. Once you're up in bridge, you might like to scooch your shoulders a little closer in under the body, press the wrists flat, palms flat. If you want to add a chest stretch, which is really nice, interlock your hands behind your back here. You're probably going to need to scoot your shoulders a little closer together. This is a really nice way to get some opening across the chest, the front of the shoulders, and down the biceps, areas that can get quite tight from working on a computer all day, if that's what you do. And we'll take one more breath here in bridge pose, and then you can reach your fingertips all the way up to the ceiling. And on an exhale, really take your time, taking a slow roll down, vertebra by vertebra. Nice. Once your hips are on the ground, hug the knees into the chest. Rock a few times side to side, giving your back a massage. If you want to add a little spinal twist, you can take your arms out to the side, roll your knees to one side and then the other. And it can just be little micro rolls. If you want to go a little further, roll your knees all the way to one elbow and then all the way to the other elbow. Nice. And then when you're ready, you can roll all the way onto your right side. And we're going to press up to a comfortable sitting position. Here we're going to get ready for some closing breath work. So if it's chilly where you are, this is a good time to pull on socks and jumpers. Have a blanket handy maybe. I like to use a bolster. Get a big pile of cushions in front of you if you like. This is going to be for the next pose that we do, Yoga Mudrasana. Maybe have a sip of water. And if your nose is a bit plugged up today, maybe take a moment with a tissue to clear your nose. That's going to be helpful in this next breathing technique, alternate nostril breathing, Nadi Shodhana or Analoma Viloma. So when you're ready, find your comfortable sitting position. Have all your props handy. And just a couple of reminders on our alternate nostril breathing. What we're going to be doing is alternating the breath through one nostril and then the other. This sometimes is uncomfortable if you've got one side of your nose is blocked or you start to feel a bit claustrophobic. There can be some discomfort in this breathing technique. So I'd invite you at any time to discontinue the breathing, come back to natural breathing. You can even do imaginary alternate nostril breathing. That can still have lots of benefits. We're going to be using a couple of mudras or hand positions, gestures. I'm not going to be mirroring you here like I usually do. So you're going to need to use your left hand, curl your index finger into your thumb, and turn your palm to face up. This is Chin Mudra, a gesture of cosmic consciousness. And then with your right hand, you're going to fold your first two fingers down. So your ring finger and your thumb are going to do the work of lightly blocking nostrils. Now, if you've got arthritis, if this hand position isn't comfortable, you can use an alternative of placing the first two fingers on your forehead and then using your thumb and ring finger. You just want to make sure you don't use too much effort here. It doesn't take a lot of energy to block a nostril. So let me just go over a few details, then we're going to get started together. So how we're going to work is at the end of an exhale, you're going to use your thumb to close your right nostril and inhale. Take it nice and slow. Sometimes the faster you try to inhale, the harder it is to get the breath in. Then you're going to switch and exhale out of the right. Stay here and inhale through the right, switch and exhale through the left. So that's what we call one round. In the left, out the right, in the right, out the left. Before we jump into this, we first want to let go of any ujjayi breathing that we were doing. So take a moment to use maybe a little falling out breath in through the nose and just to be sure your throat is relaxed, you don't have any action happening there. Maybe pay attention to relaxing your jaw and your tongue. So letting go of an active breath, finding a nice, soft, gentle breath here, and getting ready to start our alternate nostril breathing. So resting your arm on your body, thumb and ring finger in place. At the end of an exhale, Use your thumb to close the right nostril and inhale. Then switch, release the thumb and exhale. Stay here and inhale. Then switch and exhale. So that's one round. Let's keep going. Inhaling through the left. Switch and exhaling through the right. Stay here, inhaling through the right. Switch, exhaling through the left. Again, inhale. Switch, exhale. Inhale. Switch, exhale. A few more rounds now at your own pace. We'll do one more round. So your last breath will be when you're using your thumb to close your right nostril. You're exhaling through your left. So once you've reached that breath in the cycle, you can release and rest both hands in Chin Mudra and return to natural breathing. And from here, we're going to make a transition into Yoga Mudrasana, the seal of yoga. You can take your hands behind your body, and if it's available, you can use your left hand to catch your right wrist, or you can hold your hands together or hold a strap behind your back. We're just going to ease into a forward fold. And if you've got some props handy, that's where you're going to rest your forehead. And enjoying some not doing this. So this is a pose where there's no right place to get to. There's no perfect technique. It's all about just letting your body fall into gravity and moving from the practice of doing into the practice of not doing. If you have any discomfort, just keep propping up until you can find some comfort in the pose. Letting your breath come and go naturally. And taking some time to find the stillness. And you can remain here in Yoga Mudrasana for as long as you like, or at any point, you can make your way onto your back into Shavasana to take rest. If your mind has wandered off, gently guide the awareness back to the breath. Beginning to deepen your breath. Imagine stretching your breath down to the tips of your fingers, the tips of your toes, the top of your head. Perhaps even returning to that 3-part breath we began our practice with. Breathing into chest and ribs and belly. And then when you're ready, you can make your way onto your right side, drawing knees to chest. And pressing up to a comfortable sitting position. We'll close our class today with the Sanskrit chant for peace, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. You're welcome to join in or just sit and reflect on the idea of peace and whatever that means for you. If you're going to join your voice in, we're going to start with a deep breath in. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May there be peace within us. May there be peace among us. May there be peace on earth and throughout all creation. Namaste. Thank you very much, everyone.